On March 24th, what was meant to be a peaceful birthday getaway in Hawaii turned into a lethal trap. Standing on the edge of the Pali Puka trail, a woman prepared to celebrate with a smile. A simple request for a last selfie near the 300-foot drop triggered a struggle for survival. High above the Pacific, a husband's mask finally slipped. This wasn't random violence. It was a clinical, pre-planned ambush. She was a mother, fighting with everything she had, biting and clawing to stay on the mountain. When the person you trust most pushes you toward the abyss, how do you find the strength to fight back? This is the story of Gerhardt Konig. To understand how a birthday hike ended in a blood-stained struggle, we must look at the man at the center of the mystery. Dr. Gerhardt Konig was the picture of professional stability, a 46-year-old anesthesiologist whose career was built on logic. As an anesthesiologist, Konig was trained to control life-and-death moments with calm precision, skills that would later take on a far more disturbing context. For nearly a decade, he cultivated a stellar reputation at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, UPMC. He wasn't just a clinician. He was an academic and assistant professor who helped train the next generation of doctors. Colleagues and patients knew him as a man of quiet confidence, someone who remained unshakable even in the high-pressure environment of a surgical trauma unit. In late 2022, Gerhardt moved his family from Pennsylvania to the island of Maui for a dream opportunity at Maui Memorial Medical Center. To the outside world, the Konigs were living the price of paradise lifestyle. Successful, highly educated, and raising two young children in $1 million home. No one who worked alongside the respected doctor could have imagined that beneath that professional mask was a man capable of such calculated ferocity. If a man is trained to keep people alive in their most vulnerable moments, does the same expertise make him the perfect predator? While Gerhardt was a master of the medical field, Arielle Konig, his wife, was a force in a different high-stakes arena. At 36, she was a highly accomplished nuclear engineer, a profession requiring extreme analytical precision. Her career was defined by her ability to manage complex, volatile systems, making her a standout in her field. Her work demanded logic and control, but relationships don't follow equations, and warning signs don't arrive with data. Before moving to Hawaii, she spent years building a professional legacy in Pennsylvania, balancing a high-pressure job with the responsibilities of being a mother to two young sons, now ages 2 and 4. The move to Maui in late 2022 was supposed to be the reward for years of academic and professional grinding. They settled into a life that, from the outside, looked like a postcard of success. Arielle continued her work while raising her children, seemingly managing to bridge the gap between her role as a brilliant engineer and a devoted mother. But as the palm trees swayed outside their home, a different kind of pressure was building within the walls of their sanctuary. For a woman trained to understand the volatile nature of nuclear energy, the subtle shifts in her own household were becoming the one variable she couldn't calculate. Can a person trained to monitor critical stability truly predict when the person closest to them is reaching a dangerous, emotional, critical mass? The transition from a perfect marriage to a domestic nightmare didn't happen overnight. Instead, it began with a series of subtle, controlling shifts that slowly eroded their foundation. In December 2024, the atmosphere in the Konig household changed drastically when Gerhardt began accusing Arielle of having an affair. These accusations were not based on evidence, but on what Arielle described in court documents as a state of extreme jealousy. Gerhardt's professional background in clinical monitoring seemed to bleed into his personal life, as he allegedly launched a calculated campaign to monitor every aspect of Arielle's communications. What began as suspicion quickly became systematic surveillance, with Arielle feeling watched, questioned, and isolated at every turn. This was no longer a partnership of equals. It was an interrogation that never truly ended. And behind the closed doors of their Maui sanctuary, the man she loved was systematically dismantling her independence. According to Arielle's legal petitions, this period of psychological warfare was accompanied by months of alleged sexual abuse and physical assault, creating a private hell that was carefully hidden from their colleagues and the public. They sought individual and couples counseling to resolve the friction, but the digital control only grew more sophisticated as the months went by. In the age of digital connectivity, is a husband's access to his wife's phone the ultimate tool for protection? Or is it simply the bars of a modern-day prison cell? In March 2025, Arielle Konig reached a significant milestone, her 36th birthday. To celebrate, Gerhardt orchestrated a weekend getaway to Oahu, presenting it as a necessary reprieve from the growing tension and extreme jealousy that had plagued their marriage for many months. For Arielle, who had been enduring heavy psychological control and attending counseling sessions with Gerhardt, the trip felt like a fragile turning point, a chance to finally reclaim the peace and mutual respect they had lost in their home. Gerhardt suggested a hike at the Nu'uanu Pali Lookout, a location famous for its dramatic ridge trails and sweeping, windswept views of the Pacific. The path they chose, the Pali Puka, is certainly not for the faint of heart. It traverses a narrow, rocky ridge with steep, unguarded drops of over 300 feet on either side. To a casual hiker, it was a scenic adventure. However, for someone who understood anatomy, timing, and how plausible accidents occur, the trail offered more than just a view. It provided a perfect tactical landscape where a single misplaced step could easily be explained away by the heavy fog or the slick, rocky terrain. When a husband chooses the most dangerous terrain for a birthday celebration, is he looking for a shared memory or a final solution? The transition from a celebration to a struggle occurred at the trail's highest point, where the mist clings to the jagged peaks of the Pali Puka. Gerhardt asked Arielle to stand near the cliff's edge for one final birthday selfie, a request that felt increasingly ominous in the heavy wind. Feeling dizzy and uncomfortable with the sheer drop, Arielle declined and began to retreat toward the relative safety of the trail. In an instant, the clinical, composed mask of the doctor vanished. He began screaming, his voice echoing over the ridge as he declared he was finished with her. He lunged forward, grabbing her upper arms with violent strength and attempting to force her toward the 300-foot abyss. When Arielle threw herself to the ground to avoid the fall, the attack turned into something far more chilling. Gerhardt reached into his pack and produced preloaded syringes, attempting to chemically incapacitate his wife while pinning her down. Understanding exactly what those needles represented, Arielle fought with a primal ferocity, biting and clawing to knock the weapons away. Enraged, the man of science abandoned his medical tools for a primitive weapon, a jagged lava rock. The attack became frantic and brutal, as Arielle fought desperately to stay conscious and alive amidst the chaos on the ridge. Can the very hands trained to administer healing ever truly wash away the stains of an attack so calculated and cold? The calculated silence of the Pali Puka trail was soddenly hattered by a sound that didn't belong in the peaceful morning air, the desperate, guttural screams of a woman in terror. Two hikers, identified as Amanda and Sarah, were further down the path when the cries for help reached them. Amanda didn't hesitate. She began running up the trail toward the source of the noise. At the top of the trail, Amanda froze, then understood instantly what she was witnessing. A woman lying on her back with a man pinned on top of her, his arm raised as he repeatedly struck her. The moment Gerhardt realized they were no longer alone, the cold determination shifted into survival instinct. He stopped the assault mid-strike, backed away from his bloodied wife, and vanished into the thick, treacherous brush of the cliffside forest. Arielle, severely injured and in shock, managed to crawl toward her rescuers, gasping out the words that would define the investigation. "He is trying to kill me. He is hitting me in the head." As Sarah dialed 911, the first responders began a race against time to evacuate Arielle from the remote ridge, while a massive manhunt was launched for the fugitive doctor. In a place where isolation was meant to be a killer's greatest ally, Can the sudden sound of a stranger's voice be the only thing that separates a tragic ending from a miraculous survival? The manhunt for Dr. Gerhardt Konig was a massive, multi-agency effort that transformed the scenic Nu'uanu Pali area into a tactical search grid. For more than 7 hours, the hunt intensified as ground teams pushed through thick brush, locking down the park and local roads. As daylight faded, officers raced against time, knowing every passing minute made the steep, unforgiving terrain more dangerous. This landscape offered 1,000 places for a desperate man to hide, and the search became a high-stakes race through the dense Hawaiian vegetation. The search finally ended around 7 p.m., when a patrol unit spotted a man lying in the bushes off a side road near the Pali Highway. His appearance was a stark contrast to the elite professional image he had cultivated. His hair was tangled, and his clothing was heavily stained with blood. After a brief foot pursuit, the doctor was tackled and taken into custody. If a man is willing to hide in the dirt like a common fugitive, does it prove that his professional life was merely a mask for a much more primal nature? While Gerhardt was evading ground teams, a chilling piece of evidence was being generated in real time. During his 8 hours on the run, the doctor made a FaceTime call to his adult son, Emil, from a previous marriage. The visual on the other end was a nightmare. Gerhardt appeared disheveled and covered in blood. During the brief, frantic conversation, he delivered a crushing admission that would become the cornerstone of the prosecution's case. "I just tried to kill Ari, but she got away." Gerhardt also allegedly threatened to take his own life by jumping off a cliff, adding a layer of psychological instability to the incident. In just a few words, Gerhardt erased any doubt about what had happened on that trail. For the defense, this call is a major obstacle, one they are currently fighting to suppress as triple hearsay in their 2026 motions. When a father chooses his own child as the witness to his ultimate failure, is it a cry for help or the final act of a man who has lost all touch with his humanity? Recovery was a long and agonizing road for Arielle, but just 3 days after she was released from the hospital, she made a discovery in her Maui garage that fundamentally changed the narrative of the case. While searching for personal items, she noticed a hip pack hidden behind a stack of old boxes in a hard-to-reach corner. Inside, she found more than just personal effects. The bag contained Gerhardt's hospital ID card, multiple unused syringes, needles, and vials of propofol, a potent anesthetic sold under the brand name Diprivan. These were medical supplies taken from his workplace at Maui Memorial Medical Center without any entry in the controlled logs. To investigators, the bag told a clear story of preparation, access, and intent. This was the smoking gun of premeditation. It suggested that the birthday treat on the Pali Puka Trail was never meant to be a hike, but was instead a tactical mission to chemically disable his wife before she ever reached the cliff's edge. If a doctor weaponizes the very tools he uses to save lives, does his professional knowledge become the most dangerous evidence against him? As of early 2026, the case against Dr. Gerhardt Konig has transformed into a high-stakes legal chess match. Following his indictment in late March 2025, a judge revoked his initial $5 million bail, ruling that the doctor was a significant flight risk with the means to disappear. As the trial looms, the legal strategy has shifted. The defense wasn't trying to explain what happened. They were trying to erase it entirely. On January 7, 2026, his team filed 2 aggressive motions to dismiss the attempted murder charge. Attorney Thomas Otak accused the prosecution of misconduct, alleging they withheld evidence from the grand jury. Specifically, the defense claims 2 physician reports concluded Arielle's injuries didn't meet the technical requirement for substantial risk of death. A second motion targets the FaceTime confession, labeling it triple hearsay. When justice hinges on a legal definition of risk, can a technicality in the courtroom ever truly account for the terror experienced on a cliffside? The violence on the trail was only the first fracture in the Konig family's foundation. As Gerhardt sat behind bars, The life they had built in Maui began to systematically dismantle. Just weeks after the attack, Arielle filed for divorce, a move that became as high profile as the criminal case itself. She fought a desperate battle for privacy, petitioning the court to seal records and keep cameras out of the courtroom to protect her two young children. However, in a blow to her security, the judge ruled that the public's right to information outweighed the family's desire for secrecy. The financial fallout was equally devastating. To prevent Gerhardt from using joint assets to fund a potential escape, the court froze their bank accounts and property access. Despite a surge in salary, much of their wealth was tied up in their million-dollar home, leaving the family cash poor. Arielle was left to navigate the costs of recovery, child rearing, and legal fees alone, supported only by a community GoFundMe and her own resilience. While the case debates intent and technicalities, Arielle's survival remains the one fact no courtroom can erase. When a family's tragedy is broadcast to the world, can the victims ever truly heal? Or does the public spotlight become a second kind of trauma? The echo of a blood-stained FaceTime confession still rings. I just tried to kill Ari, but she got away. Today, Dr. Gerhardt Konig waits behind bars as the critical February 9, 2026 hearing looms. The man once trusted to guard human life now faces a jury to decide the fate of his own. Arielle Konig's story is a testament to a survivor who refused to be a victim of a 300-foot drop. She overcame a chemical ambush, a brutal rock assault, and months of psychological control. While legal teams debate the technical risk of death, her survival remains a miracle of the Pali Puka Trail. History will remember the doctor for his rock, but Arielle for the voice she found when she decided to scream. Is the focus on technical risk fair, or does it ignore the clear intent of a pre-planned attack? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more deep dives into the cases that changed our world.